welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with me, whether you're with me live or you are watching the replay. My name is Dr. Anna Redmond, and I'm a trained clinical psychologist. I have a specialty in chronic pain management. I work with high-achieving women to empower them to conquer their pain using my proven system so they can reclaim sustained productivity, restore joy and vitality, and live a life without pain interruptions. So if you're here live or catching a replay, you can introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And just a heads up, if you see me looking to the side, I'm simply just tracking with my notes. I say this in every guide because, I just want everyone to understand that I do track my notes. I do prepare for these. I value your time and mine, and I want to make sure I fill it with as much value as possible. So when I talk about my proven process, what is that? What am I talking about? And this is the process that I both have taught women and have used myself in my own life. And I talk a little bit about how I came up with these three pillars. I didn't just make them up. I may have made up clever names for them, but they are absolutely science-backed strategies and approaches for managing chronic pain. So I came to these pillars over a decade of extensive clinical training, as well as my own experience with pain. And I do talk about this in my very first live training. You can find that in the guide section. It's the very first one. So I talk about my journey to getting to that point and finding these three pillars and honing in on what did I think were the most effective strategies for helping people manage their pain. I also talk about how using these pillars, you can make simple shifts to reclaim joy and vitality without the flare-ups in another recording, which can also be found in the guide section. So both recordings can be found there. Check them out if you're just kind of enjoying this live training today and just seeking a little bit more background or information. But my proven process is basically, these are the combination of three things that I think are the most essential for moving toward recovery from chronic pain. And so the first is neuroscience informed mind body wisdom, which we spoke about last week. And if you missed it, you can find the replay in the guide section. The second is value-centric movement, which we will talk about in detail today. And the third is pain interrupting rituals. And I'll take a deep dive into that next week. But by the end of this live training today, you will have an understanding of value-centric movement. So why movement is the greatest safety generator for the brain in someone with chronic pain, and why it is important to connect movement and everything we do with what we value. So let's get into it. And I see people saying hello in the chat, and I just love seeing the variety of where people are tuning in from. It's so lovely. Thanks for saying hi. Let's talk about movement as the greatest safety generator for our brain. What do I mean by safety generator? The brain functions, its main role is to protect us. And the brain really directs all of the activities of the body, and it directs us toward rewards or safety and away from threat and danger. Those are the two, if we had to really boil it down, those are the two main things that our brain does. And so when we're thinking about pain, and if the brain has become overprotective, that our alarm is a little bit hypersensitive, I've talked about that in past live trainings, that means that according to the brain, or what the information the brain is receiving, there are a lot of danger messages or messages of threat, and it's responding to them very quickly. It's almost like a super sensitive alarm that's going off, right? And so what we're trying to do is change that balance. We're trying to increase messages of safety to our brain so it doesn't have a need to protect by giving us pain, and decrease messages of threat. And so why is movement the greatest safety generator? This seems a little bit crazy, right? Because it hurts to move when you have chronic pain. I recognize that. I recognize that fully, and I help in my group program. I do help people work through that challenge. It's very challenging to be able to tell yourself that, hey, it looks like I triggered my warning system, but there is not damage to my body. That's a journey all in its own, and I understand that, and I walk people through that. But why is it the greatest safety generator? So we'll talk about a few different reasons. The first reason is joint health and lubrication. So when we move, there are specialized tissues known as synovial membranes that produce synovial fluid. a natural lubricant that nourishes and protects our joints. So this fluid cushions the joint surfaces. It reduces friction and wear, and it ensures smooth, pain-free movement. And without regular movement, those tissues can become stiff and immobile, increasing the risk of joint pain and dysfunction. So when we move, the synovial fluid gets turned on, and this is nourishing. This is sort of a safety function, right? Muscle strength and alignment is another reason. Our muscles play a crucial role in maintaining proper posture and alignment, which is essential for overall musculoskeletal health. Regular movement and exercise helps strengthen these muscles and improve stability, reduces risks of injuries like sprains and strains. Um, Remember that when we don't use our muscles or we stop engaging in activities that are important to us and our muscles are just not getting that diversity, we can become deconditioned. And the more deconditioned we get, the more everyday activities really start to hurt. Additionally, proper muscle alignment ensures that our joints bear weight and stress evenly, minimizing the risk of overuse, injuries, and chronic pain conditions. Blood circulation and waste removal. This is really important. Physical activity stimulates blood flow throughout the body, delivers oxygen and nutrients to our cells while removing waste products. Improved circulation enhances tissue health and function, promoting faster recovery from injuries and reducing inflammation. So, efficient waste removal helps prevent buildup of toxin and acid byproducts, which both give us muscle soreness and stiffness, but they also send danger messages to the brain. So we want to reduce the amount of toxins and byproducts that we have. There's also the release of natural analgesics. So exercise triggers the release of endorphins, serotonin, and other neurotransmitters that act as natural pain relievers for our body. This is sort of like the runner's high, which would be an extreme example of that, where you've been running, you've been running for so long that you cannot even feel your legs anymore. You're just on this high. But this can happen in microdoses as well, because these chemicals produce feelings of well-being, euphoria, relaxation. It counteracts the sensation of pain, and it can produce a more positive outlook on life. And there's a lot of research out there about how movement is actually as effective as antidepressants when, done in a certain way. Moreover, regular exercise can improve sleep quality, it can reduce stress levels, boost immune function, all of which contribute to better pain management and resilience. What about the brain retraining and the neuroplasticity? Because that's really the important piece here. Because the brain has remarkable plasticity. And what does that mean? It means it can adapt and reorganize in response to experiences and stimuli. So regular movement and exercise can induce positive changes in the brain's structure and function. So I'm talking about actual changes in the structure of our brain. And it can alter pain processing pathways in a positive way. So when we engage in activities that challenge and stimulate our nervous system, we can modulate our perception of pain, reducing its intensity and frequency over time. What does all of this mean, right? When we engage that challenge our nervous system in a safe and controlled way. So I'm not talking about pushing through until you have a flare up. I'm talking about a really specific way of approaching activity in a safe and controlled manner that I teach in my group program. We can gradually desensitize our brain's pathways and reduce its overprotective responses. So what do I mean by that? So every time we have an experience with an activity that is positive, that doesn't flare up our pain, we are providing a dose of safety messages to our brain, a dose of positive neuroplasticity, a dose of changing our brain's pathways for the better, a dose of dialing it down a little bit. Like, you don't have to protect me with pain so much. And every small dose that we give our brain, um, the less sensitive our nervous system is, the less quickly our brain produces pain to protect us. And so these have to be starting with very small doses. So if someone tells me, like, I literally can't even walk for 10 minutes before I flare up my pain, then we might start at a much smaller place than that. That can feel really hard if you're used to working hard and being an overachiever and getting a lot done. But we can't build from pushing through and flaring up. We can build from these small doses of positive experiences with movement. And there's a really specific way to do that I teach the clients in my group program. So basically, through certain targeted interventions with movement, we can leverage neuroplasticity or our brain's ability to adapt by turning down its overprotectiveness and promoting more adaptive responses to pain and movement. And oh, and I see that I have a question about activities or motions that are beneficial for those who activities are limited. And so I have to always say here, what you should or can do and what the extent of that looks like is something I always encourage people to talk about with their doctor, to talk about what movement is safe at the time being for you. If all movement is safe, they might just tell you to pace. So only you know and your doctor knows what your limitations are and where you can move within those limitations. But I also think just that idea of approaching activity from a place of how much of this movement or activity can I do before I flare up my pain is often the answer there. So I think a lot of that looks unique to a person and their doctor. And if, like, just thinking about, there are activities that perhaps you miss or you'd like to try again, we're talking about very small doses of those activities or small steps in the direction of that activity that we can do to give our brain, to positively associate our brain with that activity. So whatever piece of that we can do gives our brain positive experience with that activity, and we start to break association our brain has with, oh, we're walking again, I've got to give her pain so she stops walking because this activity is dangerous, right? We're trying to just give positive exposures of these activities. What that looks like for each person and within their own context looks completely unique. And I do help people kind of determine this within the boundaries their doctors have given them in my group program. So always check with your doctor. But I also think there's like a gut level awareness here. There's a little bit of trial and error that's part of this. So, determining what amount that dose looks like, again, is totally unique. But I also encourage people to reconnect with their intuition around that, because sometimes we lose that when we're, passively moving through our lives and our doctor appointments and the medical system. I hope that all made sense. So maybe just going outside to sit in the warm weather. Right. So if you can get to, your favorite bench or your favorite place to sit outside, that's a really great first step. For a lot of people, even just thinking about doing the activity can cause pain. So that's a really great first step. And maybe like you increase something slightly from there. And again, speak with your doctor. But this is specific to the individual and the activity, right? Okay, so the second piece of using movement as a safety generator for your brain is that we have to connect it to our values. And I think this is the piece that is not talked about very much. I don't think, when we go to physical therapy, they just have sort of these exercises that are supposed to help us for our specific pain, right? And they give the same exercises to all of the people with that pain. Or they just encourage us to walk or whatever that thing is. And what a lot of people don't talk about is connecting movement to what is important to us. And I think that is the most important way for us to do something more reliably, more consistently, and to have it feel truly good and be meaningful for us. And so what are our values? What does it mean to connect something to our values? So values are deeply held beliefs. These are principles that guide our thoughts, our behaviors, and our actions. They reflect what's important to us, and they serve as a compass for making decisions aligned with who we are inside authentically, who we really are. For example, if family is a core value, spending quality time with loved ones might be a priority in one's life. Values are not the same as goals. We set our value, we determine what it is, and then we can make goals around that value. I'm trying to think of an example. So I had a client that, one of her values was family. Another one of her values was exercising. She hadn't walked or exercised in years. It was very painful for her. And her goal was to be able to take her grandkids to Disneyland, to be able to walk enough to do a day at Disneyland. And so we know her value. Her value is family, her grandkids, and movement. And so we created goals around that to help her move in the direction of this value. And so if walking, increasing her walking so she could go to Disneyland was the goal, we came up with very specific ways of getting her back into walking in a way that allowed for those neuroplastic changes in the brain, sending safety messages to our brain, to her brain, and helping her move forward and building upon that in a way that she didn't flare up her pain and didn't have these wasted periods of times of crashes. So how do we connect movement to our values, and what does this look like? So meaningful engagement is important here. Our values reflect what's truly important to us. They guide our decisions and actions in life. When we align our movement goals with our core values, we infuse our physical activities with purpose and significance. For example, if family and relationships are important to us, we might prioritize activities like hiking or cycling with loved ones, or activities that allow us to foster deep connections with them and create lasting memories. Sustained motivation is a really important piece here too. Connecting movement to our values provides internal intrinsic motivation to stay active, right? Because we want to, because this is something that's important to us, even when we are faced with challenges and setbacks. When our goals resonate with our deepest aspirations and desires, we're more likely to persevere in the face of adversity and maintain consistency in our, perhaps that's an exercise routine. For instance, if personal growth and self improvement are fundamental values, we might view each workout as an opportunity for growth and development, and this can fuel our commitment and dedication. So, when we assign someone an exercise, or we tell them to walk, or we tell them to do strength training, while those exercises may be helpful, the research around exercise for chronic pain doesn't actually say that there's one that's so helpful you must do this. A lot of them can actually be helpful, and what they found is most important is that the exercise that you choose to do, for example, is aligned with something that you value, or that connects with your values, or that you actually enjoy, right? Because then you're more likely to actually do it. Enhanced well-being is a piece here. So engaging in activities that align with our values promotes holistic well-being. This is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of these dimensions. By prioritizing activities that give us joy, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose, we cultivate a profound sense of well-being and vitality. And I love that word vitality because it really encompasses that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual sort of experience that can come with aligning what you're doing with your values. So whether that's practicing yoga or participating in community service or sitting on a bench in the sun, we want to have repeated positive exposures to these experiences that nourish our soul and enrich our lives. And these create actual positive physical structural changes in our brain. Greater resilience is another piece that's important here. So when we anchor our movement goals in the direction of our values, or in our values, we cultivate inner resilience and strength. So we draw inspiration from our core beliefs and aspirations, and then we're better equipped to overcome obstacles and challenges. We emerge stronger and more resilient than before. For example, if resilience and perseverance are core values for someone, we might view setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning, reframing adversity as a catalyst for, personal transformation. And lifelong sustainability. So we've already talked about this a bit, but value-centric movement isn't just about short-term gains or superficial motivations. It's truly about cultivating sustainable habits that support our well-being and fulfillment over the long term. And by aligning our physical activities with our values, we create a framework for lifelong health, vitality, and happiness. So whether that's engaging in activities, again, it could be anything that aligns with your values: environmental stewardship, social justice, personal growth activities. Our value-driven pursuits empower us to lead purposeful and meaningful lives. And so we're more likely to sustain them, to keep them going long term, to to experience and cultivate a resilience mindset that keeps that trajectory toward recovery moving keep the needle moving forward. So just as a conclusion, movement is not only essential for physical health and well-being, but it's really a powerful vehicle for personal growth, fulfillment, connection, And when we understand the benefits of movement and aligning our physical activities with our core values, we can really unlock a lot of really amazing potential. The power of that can be really intense, really strong. And so, if you're listening to this and you're wondering how you can embrace movement and harness its power as a safety generator, if you want to understand how to do this so you can get back to living that life with purpose, vitality, joy, without all of those pain interruptions, to be more productive, I invite you to book a no pressure call with me. I like to just call it a connection call. I want you to just message me or comment here. Just say me in the comments, even if you're watching the replay, or direct message me. You can just say, hey, I saw your live training and I want to have a connection call with you. Comment me today if you're feeling motivated to see what this could look like for you. So in my connection calls, it's basically a brief consultation. We sort of strategize. I learn more about your pain. We discuss your unique situation, your goals, and I talk about how my program could help you achieve those goals. And again, really align what you're doing with what's most important to you in a way that isn't flaring up your pain. And so, for anyone listening, especially those listening in real time, you'll probably notice that I announced the start of my program a little while ago, one that I believe is truly unique, holistic, fully all encompassing. And there's a 50% off sale for the first 5 founding members. As of today, I only have one spot left. So I have calls this week and next week already booked. One spot left in the program at this discounted rate. So if you're thinking about this, don't waste any more time. Let's talk about it and try to get you in at that discounted price. And within my program, I give the clients in my program the foundational education that they need to feel empowered and start taking steps. So maybe they've had a lot of education, but I'm giving them that guidance that they need to figure out how to apply these steps in their unique life, in their unique days. I give them strategies to start changing their brain and body's response to pain. And finally, we look at their days, we start designing it to reflect what they really want. And I have a step-by-step system for how to do this in a way that doesn't cause flare-ups along the way. So if that sounds interesting to you, throw a me in the comments and I will reach out to you in DMs and I will give you a calendar link that works. If you have any questions, you can always write your questions in the comments for this live training, and I'm always checking them, seeing them, responding to them, and hopefully, you've enjoyed this live training today. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to connecting with you all on a personal call, and until next time, take care, be kind to yourselves, keep moving forward. Goodbye for now.